The death of actress Natalie Wood, wife of actor Robert Wagner, is back in the news. We asked Aaron Moriarty.
Have you ever wondered how someone who spent their entire life on water could suddenly forget how to survive it? On a cold November night in 1981, one of Hollywood's most beloved stars slipped beneath the dark waves off Catalina Island, and for decades, everyone accepted it as a tragic accident. But what if the truth was far more sinister? What if the person who could have saved her was the same person who wanted her gone? The night of November 29, 1981, should have been a romantic getaway. Natalie Wood, the stunning actress who had captivated audiences since childhood, was aboard her yacht, the Splendor, with her husband Robert Wagner and friend Christopher Walken. They had just wrapped filming on the movie Brainstorm, and this weekend trip was meant to be a celebration. But by the next morning, Natalie's body would be found floating face down in the Pacific Ocean, wearing only a nightgown and socks, with bruises covering her body that would haunt investigators for over 3 decades. The official story seemed straightforward enough. According to Robert Wagner, Natalie had gone to bed around 11 that night. He claimed he went to check on her later and noticed both she and the yacht's dinghy were missing. He assumed she had gone ashore or fallen overboard while trying to secure the small boat that had been banging against the hull. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department investigated and quickly ruled her death an accidental drowning. Case closed. Hollywood mourned and life moved on. But not everyone was convinced. Dennis Davern, the boat's captain that fateful night, carried a secret that would eat at him for years. In 2011, 30 years after Natalie's death, Davern finally broke his silence. What he revealed would transform this tragic accident into one of Hollywood's most controversial cold cases. According to Davern, the night didn't unfold the way Wagner had described. There had been a massive argument between Natalie and Robert, fueled by alcohol and jealousy. Wagner had become increasingly suspicious about Natalie's relationship with Christopher Walken during their film shoot. That night, tensions exploded. Davern claimed he heard the couple fighting viciously, with sounds of breaking glass and shouting that could be heard throughout the yacht. He said Wagner, in a fit of rage, smashed a wine bottle and screamed at his wife in language so violent it terrified everyone on board. What happened next remains murky, but the physical evidence tells a disturbing story. When Natalie's body was recovered, the medical examiner noted fresh bruises on her arms, legs, and face. There was a scratch on her throat and a large bruise on her left cheek. Her blood alcohol level was 0.14%, and she had traces of motion sickness medication and painkillers in her system. But here's what doesn't make sense. Natalie Wood had a lifelong, debilitating fear of dark water. Friends and colleagues confirmed this phobia was so severe that she had it written into her film contracts that she wouldn't film any scenes in dark ocean water. So why would she voluntarily get into a dinghy alone, at night, while intoxicated? The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department reopened the investigation in 2011 after Davern's revelations. They reclassified Natalie's death from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors. In 2012, they named Robert Wagner as a person of interest, though he has never been charged with any crime. Wagner has consistently refused to speak with investigators since the case was reopened, which only deepened public suspicion. Forensic experts who reviewed the case files raised troubling questions. The bruising pattern on Natalie's body was consistent with assault, not with someone accidentally falling off a boat. The scratches and contusions suggested a struggle had taken place before she entered the water. One theory proposed by investigators is that Natalie may have been trying to get away from a confrontation and either fell or was pushed while attempting to board the dinghy. Another theory suggests she may have already been injured before entering the water. Christopher Walken, the third person aboard that night, has remained largely silent about what he witnessed. In the few interviews he's given, he's maintained that he went to bed before the alleged argument and didn't hear anything unusual. However, investigators have noted inconsistencies in the various accounts given by those present that night. Davern claims Wagner instructed him to wait before calling the Coast Guard, delaying the search for Natalie by crucial hours. Wagner denies this, but the timeline of that night shows that despite the dinghy being discovered missing around 11:30, the Coast Guard wasn't notified until 1:30 in the morning. The detective who led the reinvestigation, Ralph Hernandez, stated publicly that if Robert Wagner would sit down and talk with investigators, many questions could be answered. But Wagner's attorney has said his client will not submit to further questioning, citing the fact that after the original investigation, authorities told him he was not a suspect. This refusal to cooperate has frustrated investigators and Natalie's family members who want answers. Natalie's sister, Lana Wood, has been vocal in her belief that Robert Wagner knows more than he's revealed. She's pushed for further investigation and has stated that the evidence points to something far more sinister than an accident. She points to the bruises, the delay in reporting Natalie missing, and the changing stories as proof that the truth has been hidden for decades. Lana has written a book about her sister's death and continues to advocate for justice. What makes this case particularly haunting is that we'll likely never know the complete truth. The key witnesses have either remained silent, changed their stories, or refused to cooperate with investigators. The physical evidence, while suggestive, isn't conclusive enough to bring charges. Wagner, now in his 90s, lives quietly and has built a wall of lawyers between himself and any official inquiry. The statute of limitations hasn't run out on potential homicide charges, but without Wagner's cooperation or new evidence, prosecutors have nothing to work with. This case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about power, celebrity, and justice. For decades, Robert Wagner was protected by his status, his connections, and the initial ruling of accidental death. The investigation was cursory at best, with authorities seemingly eager to close the books on a tragedy rather than pursue uncomfortable truths. It took a boat captain's guilty conscience and 30 years of persistent questions before authorities even considered that something criminal might have occurred. The death of Natalie Wood reminds us that sometimes the most obvious answer isn't the correct one, and that accidents aren't always what they seem. A woman with a phobia of dark water doesn't simply decide to take a dinghy ride alone at night while intoxicated. Fresh bruises don't appear from bumping against a boat rail, and innocent people don't usually refuse to talk to investigators trying to solve the mysterious death of someone they loved. So here's what we know for certain. On November 29th, 1981, 43-year-old Natalie Wood died in the waters off Catalina Island under circumstances that have never been adequately explained. The people who know what really happened that night have chosen silence over truth, and somewhere in those dark waters lies the answer to a question that has haunted Hollywood for over 40 years. Was Natalie Wood's death really an accident, or did someone get away with murder? If stories like this fascinate you, if you want to dive deeper into cases where the official story doesn't add up, then subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We're committed to examining the evidence, asking the hard questions, and never accepting easy answers when the truth demands more. Like this video if you think the Natalie Wood case deserves continued investigation, and drop a comment below with your thoughts on what really happened that night. Justice may be delayed, but it should never be denied. Stay curious, stay questioning, and we'll see you in the next investigation.